if you the art of being a good coach or a good boss is if you're not good at something, find somebody who is. So I'm no good at talking. So that's my introduction over. This is Steve, Vernon, and Ben Connor, who need no introduction. I'll let Steve carry on from here, and I'll enjoy the night.
Thanks very much. Well, thank you to Rob, Maddie, the rest of the team for setting tonight up, and I know from New Balance Day, Thompson as well have organised tonight, so thank you very much to them. Chip butties have gone down a storm, I think, by the looks of things. And yeah, tonight obviously Ben and I are here to talk about our relationship coach-athlete, but also from a New Balance perspective, and Ben and I are in a really privileged position that we're part of Team New Balance Manchester, which is one of the only professional running teams in Europe. I'm privileged to be in the position of coach and manager of that team, and Ben's one of 7 professional athletes that run out of our base in Stockport. And it's a really interesting setup because Ben actually lives in the Team New Balance Manchester house. And the Team New Balance Manchester house, 5 of them live in there, and it's not like Big Brother or Love Island, so don't get too excited, okay? But it's the professional setup. The reason behind a professional team like this is we wanted to create something, an environment where athletes could focus on the running fully, be the best they could possibly be without the stresses of additional work life, paying the rent and everything, so it's fully supported by New Balance. And I think we're following on a model that's been very successful in the USA, professional teams supported by brands. It's a proven success ground. The club structure in the UK is brilliant at getting people up to international level, and it got Ben to being an international athlete. But the next step, and we can talk about that tonight, the next step is tough, and there's a lot more commitment and a lot more professionalism involved now. The standard of the sport is rising all the time, and who'd have thought Ben's 13.25 at the European Championships, and that's 13.25 for 5k, would put him in 11th place, you know? So it's the standard has risen across the world and in Europe, and when there's a 2-hour, 1-minute marathon to beat, we really do know that things are moving on. So professional teams have also worked in other sports, and I think it's something that we hope other brands will copy in the UK and be part of. So we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about Ben's training. Ben's going to talk about his insights and the team, but also we want it to be informal. Put your hand up and shout out questions at any time, and you know, Ben and I want you guys to get the most out of it tonight as well. Okay, does that sound alright? So, Team New Balance Manchester, like I said, we're based in Stockport. We train together every single day. These guys have race plans and goals that are set between me and themselves, and then they have their race calendar and what they're aiming for. But I think people often ask, how do you become a part of Team New Balance Manchester? And you know, there is no formal way to get in. It's if you're interested, people either contact New Balance, and the head of European sports marketing for running is Pete Riley. Some of you may know, an international runner himself, or they come directly to me. And it might be that at a point in their career where they ask, and I think the team is full of international runners, so people sort of know it's a high standard team. But Ben contacted me after winning the national cross country champs.
Yeah,
2016.
Yeah.
So he's already at a very high level. Came and I said, well, you know, come and have a look, see what you think. It's got to be right for you. Describe my coaching philosophy. And Ben came, and we'd just moved into a new house, a new athlete house, a bigger one to take more athletes on. And there's a snooker table in there that the old owner had left, and I think that sealed the deal for Ben. So that was it, the snooker table. No, but it was interesting because I talked to Ben, and Ben had a very clear idea of where he wanted to go. And for a young guy, I was very impressed by that. And then I remember saying to you when you left and you'd spent the day there and met all the guys and everything, I said, have a think about things and go away. And he said, no, I've made my mind up. Come in. So that was it. He was done from that day, and you know, spent the day there and he made his decision. So I suppose everyone that's here will know Ben at that point had won the English National Cross Country Champs. So I sort of want to put Ben on the spot now and say, what changed? Please say good things. But what changed from then? Do you think from being where you were and your PBs were 29:20 10k? Is that right?
29:20 and over 14.5 something like that.
Yeah,
over 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. changed, a lot changed. The main thing, what I'm sure you'll hear Steve talk about a lot tonight, is professionalism. And that's the big thing that changed for me. Like, obviously, a lot comes into that bracket, but yeah, I did become more professional in aspects of everyday life, not just running. I put more attention to detail into all the little things, the diet. Steve introduced me to a gym, which I still hate now. But yeah, professionalism was the main thing. And I was just able, obviously, I worked here up until then, which was great and I loved it, but I was able to stop that and focus on running solely, and I was able to sleep more in the day.
Which he's very good at, by the way.
Very good at, yeah, so, train in the morning, a couple of hours sleep in the day, and back again in the evening, so, professionalism was the main thing, I think.
And I think that's
kicked on from there.
I think that's an important thing to talk about, because when you say professionalism and the little things, rest, I have a mantra that if you don't recover, you don't adapt. And now everyone in this room that works, etc., has family life, the balance of training hard and recovering is very, very difficult. And it's at the level, at the amount that Ben's training, and when you're running 100 miles a week and week in, week out, and the pace of the sessions, the intensity, plus the gym work, if you're not recovering, you don't adapt to that type of workload. You're just running yourself into the ground. And I think one of the things is, that extra bit of sleep in the afternoon has been proven now. I'm sure bosses at work wouldn't be happy if you just went under the desk and said, well, Steve Vernon said, I've got to have 2 hours kit. But, but that has been important. And Ben's very good at sleeping. But I think little things like when you're part of a team as well, we run, we get up. I don't say just run when you want. I make sure that they get up and they become disciplined, and it's not like, well, I can train when I want. We run at 8:30 every morning, and I see that as a lion. I've had to negotiate that, but 8:30 every morning, and then 9:30 sessions, your hard intervals, and then the second run, they run at 5. And it's just a routine where they've got teammates to run with, and Ben's running with, international athletes like Johnny Mellor, who's a 2:12 marathon guy, Ross Millington, who's 27.55 10k and went to the Rio Olympics, Andy Hayes, British indoor 3,000 metre champ, 7:51. So these are serious guys, and that's Ben's training partners. And so every day they're working together and working hard. And I know one of the things that I talked to Rob about is how we structure a week. Now obviously Ben came from a club background, and we do train in the evenings, but we do tend to do that in the summer because races are in the evening. But in the winter, we train in the morning to allow more fuel in and recovery to go on through the day, and we find that's better. But because of the distances these guys are running, and my philosophy as a coach, and I try to really create aerobic monsters, I call it. The ethos around is running as much mileage as they possibly can, and this isn't. People worry about that. People have to say, well, is it not junk mileage doing so much? But I always say that if the easy miles should be enough to recover. So for Ben, that 7-minute miles, and there's a lot of people in this room that can go for an easy run with Ben, but the intensity of the hard days is so much. Yeah. So junk mileage, I don't think that as 7-minute mileage isn't junk for Ben. 5 minutes 40 to 6 minutes is junk mileage for Ben a lot of the time. If he's running too fast instead of recovering, because Ben physiologically isn't really getting anything until he's running 5:20 pace. So everything Ben's stuff that's of real physiological benefit in terms of making him fitter, etc., is 5:20 and faster. And then, but the easy mileage is doing a lot for your aerobic system, your capillaries, your mitochondria, increasing the efficiency of the machine to transport oxygen around. And the easy running, there's not a very famous man many years ago, Arthur Lydiard, who's revolutionised coaching in terms of aerobic running and lots of easy running. There's nothing wrong with that. So my mantra is around that, and we actually only do Tuesday and Friday are the hard days of the week, most weeks. If the race at the weekend, that might be pushed back to a Wednesday or even a Thursday, but it's Tuesday, Friday, and then long run at the weekend. So we keep to a structured week, and that's how we do it.
And another thing as well, like you said, what you thought I've changed since I joined the team, my easy running probably is one of the biggest things I've changed. Before I joined the team, most of my runs were, I'll probably say, a little bit too quick, so I would run most of my runs at sub 6 minute mile in all the time, whereas now I've learned to I'm not scared to run a 7:30-minute mile for the first 2 miles to warm up, and then just average out a 7-minute mile or whatever. Well, yeah, and that's enabled me to, well, my sessions are better, and obviously I've improved because of that. So yeah, I think that's a big change that I made since joining the team, was my recovery days and my easy runs.
Yeah, no, and Ben's emphasised that recovery's been key to his improvement. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Can your easy runs be too easy?
I mean, mechanically, for someone like Ben, tall, long levers, when Ben runs at 8-minute miling, it looks almost awkward.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have him running, sorry to anyone that's their 5k race pace, that's horrendous, isn't it? It's Brent, but Ben running 8-minute miling isn't good. Now, some people, because of his levers, the way he runs and everything, when he's really jogging slow, it's not actually good for him. It's an injury risk. Rotates a little bit in on his knees and things. So yeah, but it's all relative to the individual. But Ben can go on an easy run with some of the girls in the team, and some of the girls in the team, over 5,000 metres will be 2 minutes behind him. Over 10,000 metres, 4 or 5 minutes behind him. But an easy run might be with the girls sometimes, even though he doesn't like running with the girls. Yeah. So I think Ben again emphasising recovery, and Ben, where we live, it's hilly. I mean, it's fairly hilly.
Yeah.
But we run on the hills a lot.
Yeah.
Something that I advocate a lot.
Definitely.
Tell them about the gym then, because we just go back to, we've talked about being an aerobic monster, but also another mantra of mine is you've got to be, consistency is key, and you don't want to get injured. Nobody likes getting injured, but consistency, you need to, I always say, if you can run at 90% of maximum or mileage for a year, it's a lot better than being 100% and then 50% for a few weeks here and there, and then no running for 3 or 4 weeks. So consistency is key. And I also think that athletes, I stole this from a famous high jump coach called Fuzz Ahmed, and Fuzz Carney is now, but I want my athletes to be bulletproof. By that I mean, robust athletes, strong physical athletes. And when Ben turned up, I mean, he thought he was doing well because he did the plank for a minute twice a week, and that was his gym routine. And he was dead pleased with that. But now I've got him into the gym, and what do you think the gym, I suppose, to Ben? You tell him you hate the gym. But
yeah, I hate it.
he gets to do it with a blonde Swedish girl, an Irish girl, a Welsh girl, so he goes to the gym with some nice girls, but no, go on.
No, yeah, it's good. So yeah, we go to the gym twice a week, Wednesday, Saturday most weeks. So that's the day after our hard sessions usually. But it's not, when we go to the gym, I wouldn't say it's not heavy weights or anything like that. It's more so we can run more miles. That's the main reason we go to the gym, so we can stay injury free. And just become more robust, so we can train harder. Basically, the gym's not meant to be fun. It's just there so we can train harder.
He hates it.
Oh yeah, I can't stand
Drag him in there.
I don't like being inside. But yeah, no, I do it. I'd say it's 2 hours a week at the most. Wednesday, Saturday. It's just a simple routine. It changes every few months or whatever. We see a physio, Chris, and he'll tweak things if he needs to tweak things or whatever. But it's all very specific to what I need rather than a generic gym routine.
It's built up of core exercises, bit of Swiss ball. Ben doesn't lift any major weights. It's kettlebells are the heaviest thing, and it's Ben came to me doing no gym. I'm not going to suddenly put him in the gym. He's got some of the athletes in the group, but they do a lot. But Ben's is the structure is around keeping him injury free, and it's a lot of core control, glutes, pelvis, everything else. And he's not going lifting big weights. We get a lot of the strength just from running on the hills, and also, like I said, it's some people love the gym, but the athlete Ben is moving up in distance and hopefully a marathon over the next couple of years. It's not that it's less relevant; it's even more relevant because you're on your feet for longer, but you don't need as much power and strength because you're not running as fast. So some of the track athletes in the group, the 8:15, will be in the gym more, and the gym session has more of an emphasis. But like I say, it's a couple of hours Ben's week that he's willing to give up to stay injury free. But an interesting thing, Ben has had a little niggle. He's back running now, but I gave him an end of season break, and the end of season break is happened twice since Ben's been coached by me. Ben gets injured when he stops running. And that's genuine. He gets because he deconditions quickly. He's probably too much beer and pizza and everything else. But genuinely, and I've said to him, you can't. A break for Ben might just be a 30-minute run every day for 2 weeks. A total time off would just We're not doing it anymore, are we?
No,
It's
we-
banned.
yeah, it's
Breaks are
banned.
banned. yeah. So I mean, Ben's obviously improved, and he's improved because he's had the time to rest. He's had the time to learn a lot more. He's had the time to be more professional, but he's also had more opportunities in racing. And I think Ben's improved over all his distance. But a massive achievement for Ben this year was in February, running 61:11 for the half marathon, which is an incredible achievement. And it was also, we knew we were going to go up in distance and eventually move to the marathon. But I suppose it'd be good for you to explain to the guys why, not only physiologically why, but why do you love the longer distances, and why are you so motivated by? Because you've got to remember this. He's also a 13:25 runner. He's also 6th in the European cross. So why the marathon?
Why? Because I want to win medals at a major championship. It's one thing being a 13:25 runner, or even if I get down to 13:10, whatever it is. I simply just don't have the speed to finish in a 50, a 51, 52, whatever it is, to win a medal at a major championship. So I can be there until the last 2 laps, but then when it gets going, I'm not. So yeah, we decided that we're going to give the marathon a go at some point. Because I feel like the further up in distance I go, the more comfortable I am, and the better chance I have of succeeding. I love running on the roads as well. I prefer the roads to the track. So yeah, that's definitely the plan.
Yeah.
When it'll be.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking towards 2020 from that. So yeah.
Could I just ask how many sort of miles you're running a week? You say you're doing 2 sort of hard sessions, you do 2 in the gym.
Yeah.
How many miles you were running?
So when I'm in full training, up to 100. Maybe not as much in the track season when I was preparing for the Europeans and stuff. That was only because the track sessions were more intense and you didn't need to do as much mileage. But yeah, when I'm in a big cross-country phase or half marathon phase, it'll be up to 100 miles a week. But then yeah, when we're looking to do the marathon and beyond, it'll probably be a little bit more than that.
And what you do for sort of your sessions then, what are you sort of just mixing those up all the while, or do you have some sort of favourites? Or
So there is a structure to the sessions. Tuesday will more than likely be some form of reps, depending on where in the season you are. If it's track season, it'll be short stuff. You know, if it's a half marathon season or cross country season, whatever, it'll be more designed towards that. And then Friday's more tempo stuff. So whether that's a straight 10-mile tempo run, or we can split it into 3x3 miles, 4x2, 2x5, whatever it is. It's always a tempo effort, or a fartlek kind of effort, that kind of thing. Just a longer aerobic kind of effort, and then a long run on a Sunday, which can get up to 2 hours, so 20 miles.
and what sort of pace are you doing that?
The long run.
Your long run, yeah.
So it's most of the time progressive. So we'll start out at 7:30 minute mile or whatever, and then by the end I'll be probably running some 5-minute mile. So it'll probably only average out at around 6 minutes, but yeah, obviously it gets progressively quicker as you go along. So yeah, they're like the 3 main sessions of the week: the Tuesday, the Friday, and the Sunday. So yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
You talked a lot about minute miles. Do you measure heart rate when you run?
Yeah, I think that's one of the questions we had to answer. So yeah, on tempo sessions we will. I wouldn't say measure it, it's just more use it as a guide than anything else. More to make sure we're not running too hard and we're not putting ourselves in a box for the rest of the week or leading into a race or whatever. So yeah, I've been in a lab, been tested and all that, so I know which zone I need to work in for a tempo. Obviously everyone's different, so but yeah, we do use that mainly to make sure I'm not working too hard. The tempo run's designed to not kill yourself.
Then with that in mind, of the 3 ways to sort of measure effort,
Yeah.
so heart rate, pace, or just feel,
Yeah.
which would you say is the one you most go on?
So probably heart rate mainly, but we'll always know what pace that'll be roughly.
Right, so you've got like a goal pace.
Yeah,
that you're aiming for.
yeah, kind of thing. But yeah, I'd say if it's more to make sure we're not going too hard too early on in that session. So if I'm running a session was a 10-mile tempo, we'd say start. We wouldn't say 10-mile tempo, 5 minutes from the door and 5 minutes back. It'd always start 5:20 and get progressively quicker.
Yeah.
Probably finishing in 4:40, 4:50, whatever that is. But it's more to make sure that our heart rate isn't too high too early on, so we're working too hard, and then we're knackered and can't finish the session basically.
I think it's me, like Ben said, I'll prescribe a pace because it takes a while for heart rate to get up for Ben. So if I say run at this heart rate, he'd have to go absolutely flat out at the beginning just to find that heart rate within 3 minutes. It might take him 10 to 15 minutes to get to a goal heart rate, and then we have a maximum which we know, without going too physiologically, has a lactate turn point at which he starts becoming more anaerobic and not aerobic. So we're trying to create, remember what I said about creating this aerobic monster and raising the ability, Ben's speed at lactate threshold. So that's what we're trying to do, and the safe way of pushing it up is being on that sweet spot, that limit. So we often, the way I use it in my philosophy as a coach is being progressive in everything we do, and most sessions start out at a pace that's relatively comfortable.
Yeah. You always want to be finishing quicker than you start.
Yeah. We never start at the same pace we're going to finish at in any session.
No.
We do everything starts slow relative to Ben and finishes fast, you know. And that way you also, you know what it's like when you go down the track on a night and you're cold, you're stiff, or you've been working hard, and that first rep, I always say first rep, worst rep, because some of them are horrendous, aren't they? Or if you're on the road or anything. So, and you know, you know what happens if you go out too fast in a race. It's not pretty, is it? So, you know, it's everything we do is progressive, and the progressive element of the training allows you to adapt your physiology, which, you know, you have a lactate threshold and a lactate turn point, and the turn point's at that sort of maximum speed, which is usually what an elite athlete can run at for about an hour, and the lactate threshold is more akin to their marathon. So we need to push both of these along. So eventually, as Ben has shown this year, his half marathons come down to 61:11. And I knew that not by just his sessions, but also by his heart rate at certain speeds, if that makes sense. So where he used to be at 5-minute miling, at 175 beats a minute, he's suddenly at 440 miling. And you just know then. And then there's also lactate, without getting too sciencey, it's something I can do, but Ben is able to get into a lab and test that and have physiologists. But Ben feels that now. He's an experienced athlete. He knows when he's running too hard. And if he does get it wrong occasionally in a session, he'll know about it, like he said, for the rest of the week, because he's overcooked it and he may as well have done a race, because it's a similar sort of effort. And that's also where you do that too often, that's when injuries creep in, because you're just running too hard too often. Yeah.
Do you have periods in the year where you sort of back right off on the speed or intake stuff just to allow to accumulate the aerobic miles?
Yeah, definitely. I think you know, personally, there's VO2 max training, which is sort of 3K, 5K type training. You know, there's you get the return on the work you do doesn't last that long, but if you're not doing the aerobic training as well, so you can't be, and you often see that point in the season where athletes can become a little bit flat and not running as fast in the middle of the season, and if you're doing that, then there's often an easy way of rescuing them out of that, and it can be something as simple. I've seen it with athletes before where we just back off the real intensity and they just easy run for 2 weeks, and I've seen people run PBs off that often because they're just slightly overcooked. So it's a fine line, and that's where the art of coaching is applying the science, and it's communicating with athletes, asking how they feel, and you know what it's like if you felt rough. You know, he's always tired, but overly tired where you're just dead. He's always knackered. But 3 or 4 days, once you feel crap for 3 or 4 days, we normally have to say, right, there's a problem here. Are you ill? Do we need to back off? You know, and it's listening to your body. So I think that's what the relationship's about, and that's why, as a professional coach, I have that time to see Ben most days and also say how you're feeling and how's this, and catching little injuries. You know what it's like with, you know, an athlete might carry something and say, oh, my foot's a bit sore today. Oh, right, yeah, you've had to stop the session. How long have you had that? Oh, 3 weeks. Well, we can't afford to have Ben running around on a pain for 3 weeks, because that could be 6 weeks out. So it's nipping things in the bud quickly with physio and rest and recovery, etc.
I was just going to ask about meal structure, because you said about sleeping in the day and you've got your session kind of 8 till 9:30. When do you eat? You know, how do you structure that around the training?
when the girls cook for him.
It's ready. Name's on the
You might be
table.
watching on Facebook actually.
As soon as they ring a little bell.
Wow, you're in trouble. Turn it off, turn it off!
No, so most days we'll run before breakfast anyway. Unless it's a session day, then I will have breakfast before. So yeah, breakfast is usually 9:30, 10 o'clock. Then I'll go to sleep. Standard. Then have lunch at about 2. Probably second run at 5ish, and then dinner at 6, 7 o'clock again. So yeah, it's pretty simple. Because when you stick to a routine, it's pretty simple to be honest. Isn't it? Yeah.
For your long run, would you eat before that?
I would, yeah. So session days, so Tuesday, Friday, Sunday, I would have a little bit. Not too much. I don't think you need too much. But yeah, I'd have a banana, a small bowl of porridge, some kind of anything like that. But yeah, if easier runs, I'll probably just go out the door on a cup of tea or something like that. Yeah.
Those fasted runs done on purpose?
Sometimes, yeah. There's again, it's certain athletes that you might need to improve that on. So their fuel, the way they utilise fuel. You might have the people that are very sort of what I'd call sugar burners, and then the other people that are quite have a good running economy, so they're able to utilise fatty acids as well. And so it's different for different people. But there's, the marathon has changed a lot, and you've seen that in recent years, and fuel is very important. And I think people are afraid to fuel and think that they need to fast a lot of the time, but the body runs on fuel, and your car doesn't go very far when it's fasted, does it? So it's there is a fine line between putting too much in, and you've got to remember, if you're training 100 miles a week and you've not eaten since 8:30 the night before, and you're waking up and you're expecting the body to go and run 20 miles, finishing at 4:55. Yes, as long as you optimise your fuel stores, it can be done, but then you're very, very depleted. And if you get that wrong and you hit the wall in a training session, then it's going to take you a long time to come out of that. So we do fuel for the longer stuff a little bit, but because they're running most of their easy mileage fasted, then they're getting that assistance with it, with the economy and the way they utilise fuel. But we have, we're lucky enough to have a nutrition sponsor, OTE, who's worked with a lot of cyclists and triathletes, and they've got a range of products that are really suited to us in terms of their bars and everything, very easy, snackable stuff. So that as soon as we've finished training as well, if they've been in the car or whatever, not coming back to the house, then they can quickly get that inside them. And you've heard about the 20-minute glycemic window, where it's very important to at least get some fuel in. So while we're on nutrition, I know it's a question, but the protein is something that we use after any hard workout. So not only carbs going back in, but protein to help repairing any muscle damage. And going back to what I said at the beginning, if you don't recover, you don't adapt, and that's part of that adaptation. So there's a real blend of carb and protein mix there. So yeah, and again, that's something I think Ben has really learnt a lot. I take the mick about his nutrition, but I think he still has his bangers in and mash, his favourite Derby meal from home. But you haven't you, improved massively on your nutrition, and I think that's helped Ben a lot in his consistency and the way he's able to recover from training.
I know this is an idle question, right, but do you ever just go, this is really boring, I just want to have a drink?
Oh yeah, he does. Yeah, he does.
Yeah, that in moderation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not prison.
No.
New Balance are not set up. There is some enjoyment to what they do, and do you know what? Like a happy runner is a fast runner in whatever they're doing in life. A happy runner is a fast runner, and we try and have as much fun as we possibly can. We're joking. We've got a great group of girls and guys within the team. We're supported by a brand that look after their athletes. Their athletes are at the forefront of what we do. So, I mean, New Balance, I think. And this is on camera, I'll be careful, but Ben's had a few good nights out after races, put it that way, alright? So he lets his hair down after races, and I've got to remember these guys are working bloody hard at what they do, and I want them to be professional at all times. I want to represent the brand well, but they've also got to let their hair down. They're young people, and they've I don't want to say put the life on hold, because they're not. This is a massive opportunity for them, a massive opportunity. But there's people in the team that are doctors, qualified doctors, etc. And people that really are living the dream. And it's tough, when you're injured and it's not the glamorous life, and you're watching all your teammates going out and racing well. I mean, you know, Ben's had to pull out the Commonwealth Half Marathon the other week because this injury hadn't settled, and you know, it's gutting when he's got the rest of his teammates going out running PBs, and you know, so 2 months ago he was in Berlin running the 5,000 and thinking life's great, and then 4 weeks later he goes on his break and he comes back and he's got a tight IT band, and you know, we're over the worst of it now, but you know, then it's suddenly the glamorous life becomes a little bit monotonous, you know. But the one thing I'll say about all credit to Ben is Ben's fearless, and when the gun goes, he goes out there and he's not afraid, and he doesn't overanalyze. He's not afraid of failure. He just wants to go out and give it everything he's got. And he's very good if he hasn't had the run he wanted, of walking away and saying, "Well, I'll give it my best effort." And that's a very good message. That sometimes there's a lot of pressure in his position, or perceived pressure in his position, running professionally, you know, and living out of it. But Ben still runs for himself, which is very important, and goes out there and runs hard. And while we're on that, I remember Ben going to Berlin with his first track championships at European Champs, and he had 2 teammates, Anna from Sweden running the 1500, Kira from Ireland running the women's 1500. So we're there as a team, which was really special, the 3 of us. And I remember Ben was on at the end of it, and I kept an eye on him, kept having a coffee with him. He all right? He was just buzzing. He couldn't wait to race, and everyone else is walking around the hotel shaking. And I thought, well, I need to prepare Ben for this, because the atmosphere was electric in that stadium in Berlin. I mean, there was up to 60,000 one of the nights, and the roar was unbelievable, and he hadn't yet been to the track. And you know, Ben's used to these road races and cross-country races, which are a little bit different than a stadium full of mad Germans shouting at the pole vaulters. And so anyway, I said to him, listen, it's when you get there, you're in the holding track area, and then you come under this one of Hitler's tunnels through to the stadium, and you came up into the stadium, and you really didn't see the track and the atmosphere or anything. And I said to him, you know, I just prepared him. I said, listen, it's going to be really exciting. You just got to keep yourself calm and don't get overwhelmed by the situation. And I just got it in his head that, because I didn't think he'd thought about that. Anyway, so I'm in the warm-up area. He's ready to go. He's smiling. He gives me the thumbs up. Yeah, I thought, right, he's going to run really well. And I just said, and remember, just get out there, absorb it, take it all in. So I'm watching him, and he walks out from the tunnel, the rest of the runners. And then he starts jogging and nearly trips over on the track. I thought, oh my God, we had a good laugh of it. But I think that settled him, because, you know, he thought exactly what Steve said, and I was completely overwhelmed by the situation, but came away with a PB, and, you know, you can't.
Pretty incredible, that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
I thought it wasn't caught on camera, though. I thought it was.
So, Rob, I know you know, we've got a lot more questions to get through, so we should probably start with them. And
yeah,
like,
well, reading through them as you're talking, Steve, I think you've actually covered pretty much most.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'll just pick out the ones that I think you perhaps haven't covered as in depth as the person who's asked. So one of them that's quite interesting is someone's asked, have either of you got any tips for staying mentally strong, focused towards the end of a tough race?
Towards the end of a tough race. When it comes to the end, it's just about who wants it the most, isn't it? It's like everyone's in pain. And if you want it, then obviously there's limits, but you've got to be prepared to go over that red line. Coming towards the end, you've just got to hurt. If you don't like hurting, then you're in the wrong sport. As simple as.
And I imagine that would come from your training. You're mentally conditioning yourself as well as physiologically conditioning yourself, aren't you? So if your training's hard, you just find that place that you've been to numerous times before. That's what I would have thought.
And obviously the more you race, you know you've been there before, and you know you've done it before. So when you come to the next race, it's just pain, isn't it? It's only half an hour of pain, whatever it is. You're not going to die.
Exactly, but you know, and I'm not very sympathetic as a coach, because you know, as an athlete myself, I know it hurts, and you know, there's no point in complaining about it, because you've got to deal with it. You're trained to do it. If they hurt because they've gone off far too fast, then it's their mistake, isn't it? You know what that feels like.
I think it's more about preparing for the start of the race than anything else. Getting everything right on the day of the race, making sure you're not worried about the little things, getting there on time, or make sure you got all your food, all your drinks, everything like that. And if you're prepared at the start, then give it your go, and then you'll be fine.
Do you ever get like really nervous for racing, and it's almost like affected your race, or as soon as the gun goes, you're just like, I'm off and gone?
No, nerves. No, I've never got to the point where nerves have affected me. Obviously, you get nervous, you didn't nervous, you won't go. And yeah, just nerves are a good thing. But yeah.
No, that's right, Ben. You know, you've got to people perceive nervousness as a negative thing, but it's a positive thing. And there's a very famous sports psychiatrist, Steve Peters, that works with Ronnie O'Sullivan, British Cycling, and he uses a word that he says, you know, adrenalised. Don't say I'm nervous, I'm adrenalised. It's exactly the same thing. And if I said to you guys, now I've got a Euro Million ticket, and if we win, I'm going to share it with everyone in the room, and I won 42 million quid. That feeling of the heart racing, somebody probably need the toilet. Same thing, but it's a positive thing. It's adrenaline. It's doing exactly the same thing. Don't know what. Would that be a lot of money? Would it be about $500,000 each? Wouldn't it be alright? Wouldn't it? I haven't got a Euro Million. You know what I mean? So it's the way you perceive it, and you go into a race, and it can be a negative situation. But all you can do is do your best, and it's that old cliche, but really is. When you stand on a start line, if you're prepared, like Ben says, then there's nothing to worry about because you've done all your preparation. You've had a niggle coming into the race. You've got to be realistic with yourself, but realistic, look at the facts, establish the facts, where am I at, what am I capable of doing today, get as close to that as you can and be realistic with it, and it's just about giving your best on the day. And if you can walk away and say, that was my best effort, then you've got to be happy with that. You might be disappointed with the result, but you've got to be happy with yourself for giving your best effort.
What would you do as you warm up pre-race? You talk about being prepared.
Yeah.
And ready to race, so that first mile isn't the worst. And
Yeah.
do you do the same warm up in your before track sessions as you do for your race?
So the one we'll do for a session is pretty much the same we'll do before a race. So it's just we just know what we're doing. You don't even have to think about it.
How would that go then? What would you actually do?
So it usually starts 50 minutes before, 55 minutes before, whatever it is. 3 miles jog, drills, strides, stretching, that kind of stuff, and then. Yeah, ready to go. It's just what you do before your training session, so you don't. That's just your time to think about your race, not really talk to anybody else, just focus on you. And an hour before the race,
we have to do something quite hard though, don't we, Ben, as well? Like if you think when we do that 3 miles, sometimes it's shortened if it's hot.
Yeah, but
true. Few of the athletes like to feel like the last 3 minutes they might pick up the warm up to a steady pace, nothing crazy. But get yourself, if you feel like a bit lethargic sometimes, but also we do something, we call them extended strides, and we'll do 2 times 30 seconds hard with, if it's on the track, we'll do 2 times 200 in about 30 seconds. And that people think, well, that's quite hard before a race, but there's a study into something called VO2 kinetics, and it's actually preparing yourself. So people think, well, I have to be really rested and save all my energy, but that feeling you get early on in a race in that first couple of minutes where you're a little bit out of breath, and we found that that's less when you do these extended strides. So it's all dependent on the individual, but some of the girls the coach will do, if they're racing a 1500, they'll do a 200 metres 20 minutes before they're on the start line, way faster than race pace, nearly 400 metre pace, something really hard, and that you've got 20 minutes to recover from it. So it depends on the individual, but I think the warm-up, to answer your question, is they always do the same, because why should it change on race day? And the only thing is, in some championships, the call room can be way beyond, way earlier than, and the only way you can simulate that at training is do your warm-up, and then sit in the changing rooms for 25 minutes with a load of other nervous people, adrenalised people around you, So it's, but we take our time. Thank you. Sorry, Rob, go on.
So I'll run through them, and if you think you haven't covered them, then just butt in. I think that's probably the best way to do it. So, how much training is done in the weight room?
Not enough.
Covered that, really. There's this one which means nothing, I think, other than to Ben, which I think you know. Have you read question number 2 previous to that? Do you want to explain that? Because I can't even pronounce that second word.
One of my friends probably being clever, asking a question about bars in America.
Okay, what your preference was.
Yeah.
So for their benefit, if they're watching, which one is
rocks.
It? Right. What's your best tip for recovery?
We've gone through recovery a lot, but what do you think for you?
For recovery, sleep, food, structure.
Yeah.
Sleep's massive.
Yeah, for me, sleep's the biggest one. I sleep a lot.
So much going on in terms of repairing and the hormones are released and everything else in the recovery. And, I'd say 99% of the people in this room probably don't sleep enough, and it's because of life and everything else. But if you can take 30 minutes off social media and spend 30 more minutes in bed, it'll reward you. It really will. And life's busy, but there's so much out there that recovery is. There's so many, and I don't want to take anything away from products that are available in the shop, but there's so much out there. But if you're not sleeping, there's no point in taking all the other stuff, because the sleep is so important, and it's massive. And there's one tip we'd say for recovery: if you can get an extra 30 minutes sleep or 20 minutes nap, just put the phone, if you work in an office, put the phone there. I don't know, whatever you want to do. Pretend you fell over and fainted. He's always on the toilet floor. Yeah, he brings a pillow.
How many hours do you get a day?
9 a night, probably an hour and a half in the day. When I'm in full training.
Does that still leave time for correlation street then?
Yeah, half 7, still there.
And there was quite an interesting one. So I know you kind of covered your general week and how you approach a race in the lead up to. But someone's asked if you've got a race on the weekend, when should you do the closest speed session? I think that's what they're trying to get to.
That's the last time we do a Harden.
Yeah. Well, so if we race on the Saturday,
Yeah.
we do something hardish on the Tuesday, but that wouldn't be really hard. Our last hard session real hard session will be 10 days before, wouldn't it? Yeah.
It's always 10 days before a major race.
Yeah.
But we do a couple more lighter sessions leading into the race, but they'd be nowhere near the same intensity as the previous one.
And how would that differ to be, say, like a low-key race where you're using it just as a marker?
Yeah.
Would you train right through that? Some races.
Yeah, there are a lot of races you do have to train through.
Because I think sometimes when we're talking to customers in the shop, you can.
Yeah.
That's perhaps our average customer would perhaps not actually consider the fact that some races are more important than others, and so you approach different races in different ways.
Yeah. So obviously, like Berlin was a major championship, so I wouldn't train through something like that. But there's a lot of time we use races to gain fitness or whatever is part of leading towards a future goal. So we still do something relatively hard on that Tuesday and leading right up to the race. It's just treated as another training session then, rather than a race. So, but for the main races, we will have our last hard session 10 days before. We just tick over leading into the race. Keep the mileage relatively high, just the intensity will decrease a little bit. Is that right now?
Yeah.
Good. One more off the paper, Steve. Someone's asked if they are particularly injury prone. In your view, what's the best way to get maximum benefit from dropping to a lower mileage training plan? And they've suggested in brackets within their question, say for example, 3 runs per week plus cross training.
So with injuries, for me, it's go and see a good physio, and then look at the problem. If it's a reoccurring injury and it needs to be addressed, if it's just a one-off because of something silly or an ankle sprain, then obviously that can't be avoided. But go and see a good physio, find out if it's a weakness, an imbalance, and address that before you start back. Because so many people, all they want to do is get back running. You just, it's healed. But if you've been running around on that for a while, and it's sore, and you've been labouring your stride ever so slightly, you're going to create imbalances because things are going to switch off, muscle groups are going to switch off, you're going to be favouring one side, and then you get into a cycle. And we've all been there, a cycle of injuries, where one leads to another, to another, to another. Address things, whether that's a bit of time spent in the gym, but then supplement the training with cross training. As you're building back up, if it's been an injury for more than a few weeks, you can't expect to get back into your normal weekly running routine. Supplement it with low impact exercises. That can be the elliptical trainer, a spin bike, the pool. But I think I fell foul of this as an athlete so many times, of just desperate to get back, because that's why we love the sport. We love being outside, we love doing the running, but you'll thank yourself for it if you spend that little bit of extra time in the gym and supplementing it. And as you get older, I'm finding that even now that I'm I can't run as much as I want to, and I'm privileged to still hang on to the back of these guys a few times a week. But in terms of my own high intense sessions, I find that I take a lot longer to recover from, and actually find that I can stay really, really fit. And it goes back to the very beginning of just aerobic running, just easy running. You can get a long way of just easy running, and if you're coming back from an injury, just stick to easy running for a few weeks until you feel ready to go again before you do any intervals or racing. And you'll be very, very surprised that just easy aerobic running gets you 90% of the way there.
Does anybody else got any questions before I just carry on talking?
Do you do cross training on the standard routine anyway?
So sorry?
Do you do cross training anyway? If you're on the bike?
I don't particularly. I know a lot of people on the team do. The girls do a little bit more. I am at the moment because I've had a little bit of a niggle.
You hate it, don't you?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the swim bike or the cross train or anything like that. But I know, yeah, people do. So the girls on the team do a little bit, don't they? For like the second session of the day or whatever.
But you can stay very, very fit. Very, very fit. Ben missed a chunk of time last year, exactly the same time. Like I said, the end of season break, no good for him. And quite enjoyed doing the spin bike, and I set him some really hard, intense sessions on the spin bike. Still do the same thing. So if it was 10 by a K, off a minute recovery, just run spin 10 by 3 minutes off a minute recovery. Get his heart rate high. I mean, you can't get it quite as high as you normally would running, and you sort of think you're doing it. 20-minute warm up, 20-minute warm down. You've been on the bike for 70 minutes, you know, and you feel like you've done something, and you feel part of something still. And I think it's important that you don't lose heart, and you really cross train hard, because you can actually find you come back very strong from cross training as well. You know, so Ben ran 48 minutes for 10 miles off cross training. Literally 2 weeks back running, and you know,
6 weeks of cross training.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the science of it all, coming from a cycling background more so from me, the key word is power and wattage. Is there any sort of way that that's worked into your routines?
It's hard to measure power and wattage because, you know, foot strike and everything else. So we don't use power, and I don't know if people use. I don't know if there's any way of measuring it out there in terms of for general running. So. No, I think for us it's based on heart rate, paces. We do a lot of running, like I say, off-road and on the trails, because these guys are lucky, even in the winter months, they can train in the daylight. So, but I think one thing that Ben's done a lot more off-road running over the last 18 months, just for, you know, less impact, but also that different movement of your feet all the time gets you very, very strong. And overuse injuries, if you think of running down a road in a straight line for 10 miles, every foot strikes is the same. If you're on the trails, the canal, we've got National Trust parks nearby. So I think one thing that has really helped is I try and get my athletes off the road all the time as much as possible. And sessions are on the road and faster stuff, but most are running. But in terms of actually measuring power, we don't do it now.
There is a question just come through on Facebook. They're like
is it about a bar?
No, it's from somebody called Wayne, and they want to know have you got a pre-race meal, which I think you've kind of covered.
Free, yeah. Some people do, some people don't. I don't particularly have a particular specific pre-race meal, as long as it's carbs. So it's usually pasta anyway, but it's not.
Do you get given any guidelines as to what it should be?
Not really, no. As long as it is carbs, you've got everything in what you're having throughout the week anyway. You just fuel like you would fuel for a session.
You can have anything pre-race, what would it be then?
If you could have anything, spaghetti bolognese. But Johnny Mel likes to have his lasagna, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah.
Every night.
No, I think one thing you've got to remember is these guys are travelling all over the world, and you know, if they have to have this pre-race meal, they're screwed, aren't they, when they travel to, you know, as long as getting something simple in. And most race organisers all around the world will have the standard stuff at the mealtime, rice, pasta and everything, but if you become too set in your ways, and you know, you go to the airport and they've gone through your bag and they've stolen your tuna pasta bake, then you know, but you, like I say, you plan and prepare as much as possible, but control the controllables. And you know, it's no good, you know, don't go and have a vindaloo the night before a race, you know, for the obvious, but most of the keep it simple. Yeah.
When you see what Mr. Kipchoge ran for a marathon, the other week. How does that? I mean, you were obviously saying you're after major medals at championships. Does that change how you see it?
Is that trying to
He's
compare?
retired.
I don't know. Trying to compare to that's yeah, it's pretty tricky. Obviously, it's phenomenal. But you can only focus on yourself and focus on what you want to do. And if I can get myself into whatever it is, 207, 208 shape for a major marathon, who knows, that could be good enough on the day. People have bad races, people have bad days, especially in a marathon. Anything can happen, more so than on the track. But yeah, it's trying to compare to that's pretty impossible. But
you could have run to halfway with him.
Yeah, yeah.
We're halfway there.
Yeah. I haven't done one yet. No. Coming soon, I think. So, yeah.
Steve. So we've had a phenomenal summer this summer. So obviously it's been really hot. How have you prepared do your athletes do anything different with the weather conditions, and would you expect, I'm thinking especially about kind of London this year was bonkers, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Would you expect different things from your athlete in kind of changing weather conditions? Does the really hot stuff make a difference?
Yeah, I think coming from sunny Stockport, you don't see the hot climates, and we've got to prepare for two major championships: Doha next year, the World Championships, and the year after Tokyo. And Doha, they put the marathon at midnight. That's the coolest point of the day. So if Ben makes it to Doha, he'll be running at midnight, And Tokyo, they've been putting this sort of forecasted temperature, and it's going to be 30 degrees to run the marathon. It's brutal. But like Ben said, when we go back to the championship question, you saw Callum Hawkins finish 4th in London in 2:10. Okay, so it's not 2:1 that will happen in a championship with pacemakers. You can never say never, but there's people that Ben is getting closer to Callum all the time, and in this sort of half marathon he's beaten me quite a few times over the last 12 months, and these are the people in the UK that are at the top, and then the next level. So, but the heat is it's really hard to prepare for, and we've started to already. So we've been using a base in Murcia in Spain, which is going out there and training as much as we can, and it's cheap and it's hot. We've just been there with a couple of lads in September where the temperature was exactly the same as Doha is going to be. So sort of 27 to 31 every day, humidity at about 60 to 70%. And just preparing for it. You cannot not prepare. I mean, one of Ben's training partners, Johnny Mellor, was in great shape for London this year. His PB's 2:12, hoping to do better than that, and it was 24 degrees. I don't know if anyone ran London this year. It's tough, wasn't it? Yeah. Really tough. And he ran 2:17, which is still incredible, but it's 24 degrees in a marathon is brutal. So 30 is another level, and if you don't prepare for that, you can make a championship. Not only is you're going to run badly, but it's dangerous if you're not prepared for it. So yeah, we've had it warm this summer in the UK, which is helping things, but we have planned to go abroad as much as possible and get used to the heat. And you've got people at British Athletics doing research into the best way of doing it, and you can do it in small hits. It's not like you have to go and live there for 6 months or anything. You can go two weeks here and go back out there, and you've got the use of heat chambers here in the UK, and even something as simple as just wearing a bit more gear, even on it. Today was lovely, and if you went out running in a jacket and tights, you'd have come back sweltering and sweating, but still increasing that ability to sweat and cool yourself down. So, dress Ben up in a bin bag or something, cheap way when budgets run out. But we're lucky enough to have support from both British Athletics and from New Balance that are helping Ben achieve his dreams and supporting me in helping these guys. So we're in a really privileged position. But it's Doha and Tokyo for the longer distances. We just can't get Ben ready for the pole vault of the 100 metres. He's just not. We've tried.
The one question that has come through, which is a very good question, but perhaps more for the people watching on Facebook rather than here tonight, is obviously the mum of an athlete, I think, and they're asking Ben, at what age did you start running competitively? And probably more targeted towards Steve is, what tips have you got for any aspiring young athlete?
So yeah, I joined a club at 12, 13, just going into secondary school. And I was racing pretty much straight away. So I was racing the under 13 age group. And I did pretty well at that. You can start very young, but I just say, in terms of tips, it's just enjoying it. It's cliche, but at that age, you can't really you can take it seriously, but not to a point where you're gonna fry yourself out. You're gonna end up hating it by the time you turn 16, 17, or whatever it is. Join a club, run with friends, whatever it is. Have a coach down at the club that you can talk to, and just have a good time. And it's all about enjoying it at that age. I think I certainly did that. My old coach Jerry's here tonight, and he helped a lot with that for me. I enjoyed going down to training and stuff like that. And although I wanted to train harder and push myself all the time, I know I'm always thankful to Jerry for putting a lid on it a little bit and not letting me run 90
Jerry
miles.
just passed the lid to me, I'm still doing it.
Not letting me run 90 miles a week at 15, 16 or whatever it was. And I think that's definitely helped to where I get to now. So
I think that's, to reiterate Ben, it's exactly the same. Key is coaching. People like Jerry, I was lucky at Stockport to have Dave Turnbull. They made it fun, they made it enjoyable, they looked at our long-term development, and that's key for any young athlete. The coach involved, parents involved, everyone matures at different rates. Ben was a champion as an under 15, we had
13.
Under 13. When I was under 13, I was about that big, and I was getting beat. I remember, I think my first national type race, I ran brilliantly. I finished 89, that was brilliant. It was 300 or 400 in it. 2 years later, I was second in the English schools, and people develop at different rates, and you do see a lot of burnout in young athletes, but I really do think that as parents, go and find a good club and ask about the coach, ask about how does it work down at that club, and make sure, you wouldn't just throw your kid in any school, would you? So it's the same, and Ben and I are lucky that we've gone from junior and under 13, I was the same age as Ben, I think 12 when I joined the running club, and I've had, been very lucky to have a good coach, good club structure, and taken it through, and I love the sport now, and even though I'm slowing down.
Steve, at the other end of the age scale, it's, from a coaching point of view, if you were faced with helping somebody that was maybe 15 years older than Ben and a few stone heavier, that was just starting running for the first time, maybe just completely against the 5K, that come to you and says, like, Steve, help me run a marathon, how would your approach differ to how you'd work with somebody like Ben, or would it be fundamentally the same?
No, a lot different, because you've got to be realistic with the person, their ability. I always look at how much time has that person got to train, instead of giving them a training plan, because people that are older might have a lot more family commitments and work commitments, injury history, but I think finding enjoyment out of the sport, walk before you can run. The couch to 5K has been successful because of that. If you've never ran before and somebody go out for a 30-minute run, it's not going to be an enjoyable experience, and especially if people are overweight. I also think supplement as the weight comes down with cross-training, because you can get injured easily if you're carrying a lot of weight. But find a group and find a running buddy, or make enjoyment out of running, because it's tough. There's winter nights coming, and you know what it's like, and a lovely summer's morning, you're motivated to get out there, but in the middle of winter when the hail's coming against the window, and so I think my advice to anyone is be realistic, set yourself a goal that is achievable in training first of all. Don't commit yourself to a plan that's 5 days a week that you can't do, because then you're only going to get demotivated, and I think just keeping that motivated enjoyment, and find out what you love about running. If you love going running on the roads, that's fine. If you like it more on a weekend, going up in the hills and the countryside, and mixing it with a bit of trail running as well. So I think working with people is, like, again, reiterating, happy runner's a fast runner. Get enjoyment out of what you're doing, and I think that's really, really important. If you're not enjoying it, then why are you doing it? So it does depend on the individual, but getting that enjoyment and making sure that you're doing, setting a realistic plan that's not going to get them injured or ill, etc., because it's too ambitious. But a marathon is time on your feet, no matter what speed. And the longer you're on your feet, the more it hurts. So just because Ben runs fast, don't think he must hurt more. He doesn't. It's the people that are out for longer, they've got to suffer the pain longer.
Well, I'm mindful of Ben's 9.5 hour sleep target. So I'll finish with just one more question for Steve. Bearing in mind, obviously, as most of us know, Steve was a fantastic athlete at Ben's age as well. But if you could pick one thing that you know now that you wish you knew when you were Ben's age, what would it be, and how are you using that knowledge to change what Ben's doing versus what you were doing?
Not overcooking and not pushing, and you know, the reason athletes like Ben have got to where he is because he's not afraid of the pain and to push himself. But you know, I know that I was injured quite a bit because I pushed too hard, and I was ruthless in training with my training partners. I just wanted to crush it, and it goes back to coaching. I just wanted to kill people. You know, I might look like a nice guy, I'm not, but you know, it's and that was to my detriment, and I sometimes overcook things. And I remember running a North of England cross country championship and at Knowsley Safari Park. It was a mud bath, and I remember the nationals 2 weeks later, and instead of just winning that race, because you've got 2 weeks, you know, from a tough 12k cross country, it can take a good week to recover. And I remember learning my lesson there because I'd won the national, I really wanted to win again, and I killed myself in that race to win by as far as I could. Now, why am I possessed? And I won by 1 minute and 1 second. I thought, yes! I got beaten in the national 2 weeks later, and I know exactly why. And I was always just, and I don't know whether that's me ingrained, but you know, I to sum it up, you know, listen to your body. Don't push really hard all the time. Consistency is key. Consistency is key. And if you're not breaking down with injuries and just putting year on year, week on week, you know, you're going to get good. You're going to improve. Okay. And I think, I think that's something that I've, like Jerry did, and I said I've done with you. Just rein him in a little bit, and you know, enjoy it, because you push too hard, you get injured or ill. So it's as simple as that. So end it on consistency.
Okay, that's good. A big round of applause then.